Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Fear of Becoming Obsolete, or FOBO as we like to call it. I am Tom Auld, your friendly neighborhood product owner, and today we're going to talk about your team. Are you in a team that generates revenue, or are you overhead? It may be a bit out of your direct control, but how your team is positioned in the organization will impact your chances of becoming obsolete. So grab a cup of coffee, tea, or favorite adult beverage, and let's talk about staying relevant at work. Question came in since episode 2. Why do you focus on fear? Isn't there a more positive approach? First off, thank you for the question. It's been amazing to see the level of interaction these videos have started to generate, and I invite you to get in on the action. But why do we focus on fear? I view fear as one of our strongest and most powerful emotions. Fear is natural and automatic human response, and can in fact serve to help protect us from harm. While fearful behavior can be destructive, feelings of fear themselves are merely a signal that we may need to do something. The American writer H.P. Lovecraft wrote, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear." My intention is to inspire hope, but it seems like more change happens when there's an element of fear. It's not my favorite answer, but it's an honest answer. If you have a different take, I would love to hear about it in the comments. So getting back to our show. Last episode we focused on yourself and your individual skills in the job market. Today we focus on your team. Just to ground us in a few terms, team could mean the other human beings you work with and report up to the same manager, or it could be the general area of the organization where you work. It's up for you to make that call. For the sake of this conversation, I'm just going to call everything a team. Teams fall into two categories: revenue generating or overhead. Revenue generating teams do just that. They generate revenue. Typically sales, marketing, business development are functional areas that generate revenue for companies. Depending on your specific company and products, you might be a little unique and have some other areas. Overhead teams support revenue generating teams or the general operations of the organization. Overhead is any cost that you pay before a single customer decides to give you money. Overhead does not include the cost of raw materials or ingredients that go into your product or service. Legal, accounting, finance, and operations are typically overhead areas of your company. Think of it this way. When you go to your job, you're generating revenue for yourself. When you pay your mortgage, that is overhead, quite literally over your head. All right, enough with the boring finance jargon. If you're on a revenue generating team, you're extremely valuable to the company. If no income is coming in, you can't pay salaries, office rent, electricity. It's impossible to run a commercial business without income. This is why it is such a priority for companies. As a part of a revenue generating team, you are responsible for maximizing that revenue. You want to get more customers buying more products as frequently and as often as possible. You look for new ways to sell, you expand your market globally, you add new functionality to your product to make people stand in line to buy the newest model. The challenge on this team is when to know when your product is becoming obsolete, when your customer no longer finds your product valuable, or when you've sold your product to everyone that wants to buy one and there's no one left to sell to. This is a real issue. Companies start seeing success in one area and think the ride's going to last forever. They double and triple down on their idea and stop innovating because they're too focused with making all the sales they can make today. Let's consider a recent example, Peloton. Peloton makes high-end exercise equipment for your home. They're beautifully designed. They have a team of white glove delivery people setting it up for you, getting it hooked up to your Wi-Fi, showing you how everything works. There is zero friction between the time you order the product and you're taking your first spin class. Their special sauce was their live classes. These classes added energy and a sense of competition to every workout. It also added a sense of community, which is something we were all desperate for during the pandemic. During the pandemic, at the peak of their value, Peloton was worth $50 billion. Customer satisfaction was off the charts. They were darlings. Nothing could stop them. But now, approximately 24 months later, they had to lay off 5,000 employees. Their current market value is hovering around $4.5 billion, a drop in value of 91%. Peloton execs said at a conference call, "We've made missteps along the way. To meet market demand, we scaled our operations too rapidly. We overinvested in certain areas of our business." So just let that be a warning. Just because you're on the side of revenue doesn't mean things can't change quickly. You want to be aggressive in maximizing the revenue, but you need to be conservative in determining how long success is going to last. Make sure you're investing in your next big thing while you're cashing checks for the current big thing. "The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining," is a quote from President John F. Kennedy to illustrate that point. But not everybody is on the revenue-generating side of the business. Some of us must keep the business running and afloat. Traditionally, overhead is between 20 and 35% of the business budget. It can go up to 50% for some organizations, and many times it's just tied to the number of sales or revenue a team has or a company is generating. Any way you calculate it, this is where companies always look to cut first when times get lean. What's the least we can afford to spend on operations this month to be profitable? What's the least number of humans we need to keep this place up and running? It's always easier to cut costs than to increase sales. You can instantly reduce costs, but you cannot instantly increase revenue. If you find yourself on this type of team, you just need to understand where you are and ask yourself these questions. Can your function be outsourced? Can it be automated? Can another group come in and take this over for us cheaper, faster, better? Companies are constantly under pressure to reduce costs. You need to understand where you are in that conversation. It can happen anywhere. Case in point, in 2004, Best Buy outsourced almost their entire ID department to Accenture. On a Friday, 95% of the IT employees wore Best Buy employee badges. On Monday, they all came back in and they were given Accenture badges. And this impacted about 800 people. So it can happen. Still stuck on, if you're in a revenue generating team or an overhead team, consider these questions. Is the business publicly talking about the work your team is producing or the product that they're building? If so, you're in a good spot. For now. Does the org keep switching your team around, having you change focus every 3 to 6 months? Danger, Will Robinson. The company doesn't know what to do with you, and you might want to be cautious. Does your team have a self-contained budget, or is it part of a bigger pool of money? If you're part of a bigger pool of money, you might be at risk, especially if your boss is not the final decision maker. If you have full control of the budget, that's a good sign. The company's directly investing in you. Show them what a good decision they're making by creating value. Just remember, it's in your best interest to understand where your team falls on the importance scale for your company. When tough times come up, and they always do, the company will cut teams and functions and not necessarily consider the individuals on the team. And just because you're on an overhead team does not mean you're on the chopping block. It just means you need to focus on ways to reduce cost, increase productivity, add new services and features. All organizations need both sets and skills. Make sure you know where you stand, continue to monitor the situation, be prepared to make a move when you start to feel obsolescence coming your way. I suggest you always keep an active network inside and outside of the company that you can turn to if you ever decide to make a change. We will dedicate an entire episode to networking, but just know to do some networking today. Think of it as fixing your roof while it's not raining. So, what'd you think? Did we add value for you today? Did we hit a nerve? Did we leave something out? Please interact with us in the comments or send us an email at fobo@auldllc.com. And don't forget to check out our other FOBO videos at our website and our YouTube channel. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Every little bit helps. Lastly, please let us know if you have ideas, questions, or topics you would like us to address in the future. We would love to hear your stories and share them in an upcoming episode. That's it for today. This is your friendly neighborhood product owner. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Take care.